Okay, Jai Hind everyone. Today, myself Achintya Pandey, as assistant professor in the Department of Information Technology at Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. And today we'll see object-oriented analysis. Okay. Before that, we have already made 2 videos of this subject, object-oriented system design. Okay. One is regarding object and classes. Second is regarding collaboration diagram. And this is my 3rd video of the subject object-oriented system design. Okay, so what is object-oriented analysis? Okay, since this is object-oriented, means whatever we do that will be related to object and class. Object are what? Just we can assume basic real-time entities. Anything which is distinguishable from any other things, that is called object. So how we identify object, how we investigate just to solve the problem, this all come into the analysis. The object-oriented analysis is basically the investigating rather than finding just the solutions. Okay. Okay. So we'll see the concept of object-oriented analysis. So what is object-oriented analysis? So object-oriented analysis is basically the investigation of the problem rather than how a solution is defined. Okay. So what we do during object-oriented analysis, mainly there is an emphasis of finding and describing the objects. How many objects will be required, how many objects we can make, okay, what are those objects, how the objects could be communicated, okay, what are the methods or function, or you can say it even attributes of that object. To identify these comes under the analysis. So analysis is a general term, and the analysis means we are just investigating into the problem. Okay. So during object-oriented analysis, there is an emphasis of finding and describing the objects, or we can say sometimes concepts in the problem domain. Okay. For example, if we have, say, we want to make library information system. Okay. So what could be the object? So there, say you can say book could be object, library could be objects. Even further, like we make DFD, like in the suppose in project we make DFD level 0, DFD level 1. Here rather than identifying the process, we have simply just think in terms of objects. How many objects, how many concepts could be there? These all comes under the object-oriented analysis. So for example, in the library management system, book will be an object, library could be an object. Okay. Next is object-oriented design. So in design, what are the attributes and method? Like book. So what is the title of the book? Okay. Number of pages, author name, and all this. These all are the attributes. Suppose there are further library. Similarly, we can draft the attribute. Okay. How these, book communicate with other, say, kind of object of this library information system. For example, here library or any other object we are going to create. Okay. So this come under the methods. Like in C, we use the functions. Okay. So function is what? Function is basically self-contained block of a statement which performs some kind of task. Okay. So some kind of task means some task could be like how the object could communicate with the other object. So the objects could communicate in the form of message. So this comes under the design. So basically attributes and methods comes under the object-oriented design, and this object-oriented emphasize a conceptual solution. Design means just how we going to code and all. So before that we make some design. Okay. So object-oriented design emphasize a conceptual solution that fulfill the requirements. Okay. So need to define in terms of software, need to define software object and how they collaborate to fulfill the requirement. Okay. Collaborate means what are the sequence and all. Okay. For example, the library information system, a book software object may have a title attribute like earlier discussed and get chapter method like just as a function. So this method means similar to a function in C, and this title means just the characteristics of book. Okay, features, title, number of pages, author name, like this. Okay, like in database we read the entities. Okay, and finally object oriented programming. So programming is what? Just implementing, writing the code in some language like C++, Java and etc. Okay, so implementation means how we implement, how we code the design object in particular language like Java, C, C++, etc. Okay, or any language. Okay, so basically object oriented analysis consists of three phases. One is analysis itself. Object oriented analysis means investigating into the problem. Okay, finding problem domain and all. Then it's design, object oriented design, and after we implement it, and this is called object oriented programming. Okay, so this mainly consists three things: OOA, object oriented analysis; OOD, object oriented design; and OOP, object oriented programming. For example, in the library information system, we have identified say object book. So this is the representations. We can say object diagram or class diagram. So book is an object, title is its attribute, and print is the method. Okay, get chapter and all. Okay, so this book or any which we are going to make as an entity which like this come under the domain concept. Okay, attributes and function based on these objects will come in this. So this is called analysis. So this is the domain phase, this is the representation of analysis of concept, and this is the programming or you can say implementations. For example, this we have this is what? Data type. So we have written just title in string data type, making it private, and this print is the methods. So we are implementing in Java. So we can make like this. Okay, so representation in object oriented programming language. Okay, so from analysis to design to construction code, this is the sequence. Okay, so the purpose of object oriented analysis is how we characterize a system. Okay, to know what are the different relevant objects. Okay, how to create, how many objects could be there, just to complete that. How do they relate to one another? Okay, one object, how one object could be related to one another. For example, say customer borrower. Okay, if there is a customer is a say okay customer loan, so how the customer borrower relationship. Okay, so how an object could be related with another object, these all comes under the object oriented analysis. So the purpose is to characterize a system, to know what are the different relevant objects, how do relate to one another, how to specify a model. Okay, how to specify or you can say model a problem to create effective design, exam requirements, how what are the requirements, how we analyze their implications, and all are the purpose of object oriented analysis. The intent is to define all classes. Okay, all classes that are relevant to the problem to be solved, as well as the operations means the functions and the attributes like title and all. Okay, associated with them. The relation, even the relationship between them means between the object and behavior. Behavior is again like the function they exhibit. So in object oriented analysis, the basic thing is to identify the object, what are the attributes of the objects, what are the methods to communicate with the objects. These all comes under the analysis. Okay. So to accomplish this I mean how to identify object, the communication between objects, following tasks would be required, or following tasks must occur. First is basic user requirement must be known. What are the requirements of users? Okay, on that basis we can create. Classes must be identified. Class is basically collection of similar type of same type of objects. Okay, object is what? Particular, like suppose a student. Okay, so student is a class, and a particular student, any student will be the objects. Okay, so classes must be defined. Okay, that is attributes and methods. Attributes, features, and method means function must be defined. A class hierarchy. Okay, which one is superclass, which one is subclass, and all that. And this feature is called generalization and specialization. Okay, if we specify, or sometimes in object oriented programming it is called superclass subclass relationship. Okay, so this is called the hierarchy. A class hierarchy must be specified. Object to object relationship should be represented. What are the object behavior? It must be modeled. Okay, so task 1 through 5 are reapplied iteratively until the model is complete. Okay, so object, class, hierarchy, object to object relationship and its behavior must be iteratively applied until the model is complete, until all the user requirements been fulfilled. Okay. Okay. So conventional versus object oriented analysis. Conventional analysis, and which is the new paradigm, which is the object oriented analysis. What are the difference? Are the basic differences? The conventional analysis is also called structured analysis. Okay, so structured analysis treats processes and data as a separate components, while object oriented analysis combines data and process, and that acts as a objects. Okay, so structured analysis treats processes and data as separate component, whereas object oriented analysis combines data and process that acts under data into objects. Means in object oriented analysis we have to identify in terms of objects what are the objects, not the process and not the data. If we have identified object, according to the object we may write the attributes and methods. Okay, so the main difference between structural, or you can say conventional versus object oriented analysis, is in object oriented analysis we think in terms of object, here we think in terms of process and data. Okay. Okay, these are a few key point differences between structured and in structure we use DFDs, data flow diagram, like level 0, level 1, level 2, while here in object oriented analysis we model use case model. Okay, here decision table or tree are there to analysis. In object oriented analysis we find number of objects, classes, their relationship, and of course further we can have sequence diagram, collaboration, state machine diagram, and all these diagram. Okay. Okay, sequence diagram means just like you can say flow chart. What are the flow, how we start, how we move, and how reach to the end. Collaboration and sequence both are similar. Okay. So these all are some methods, popular methods which are used for object oriented analysis. This is the Booch method, Romberg method, Jacobson method. Okay, code and Jordan method. Okay, Jacobson, code and Worsbrook method. And if all these combined into if we integrate the whole features, so that come in under the UML, that is the Unified Modeling Language. So just the brief, let's brief or emphasize the particular. What are the Booch method? The Booch method strongly identify the iterative process. Okay, the process will repeats and all. Iterative process and the creativity of the developer as essential component in the object-oriented design. Okay, iteratively, further and further. Okay, the method is more a set of heuristic and no strict baseline or order of work exists. This boost method is basically based on the heuristic. Heuristic means, I mean, just identifying, assuming, okay, based on the knowledge system and all. So, the process of object-oriented design generally tracks following order of events. Okay, what are the process of the design? So, first we have to identify the classes like already discussed. So, identify classes and object at a given level of abstractions. Okay, identify the semantic of these classes. Semantic means meaning of these classes. Why we identify these classes or these objects. So, the semantic also must be required. Okay, identify the relationship among these classes and objects just for the communication, and then implement these classes and objects. Means we have just like object-oriented analysis, basic object-oriented analysis, we have to identify what are the objects and what could be the relations, and similar type of objects will be particular class. Okay, like this. Rambagh method. Rambagh method develop the object modeling technique for analysis, design, object level design and implementation. So, in Rambagh method, 3 models of the system are developed. One is object model. Okay, we model the object, dynamic model and functional model. Object model means how to model the objects. Dynamic model, how change dynamically and with to model. Functional means behavioral model. Okay. So, object model describes the static structure of the system with classes and their relationship. Like static means what are the name of object, what are the attributes of objects and all this. Okay. So, this come under the object model, how to model. Dynamic model capture the temporal aspects of the object model with events and states of the object, and functional model describe the computation in terms of how output value are derived from the input value. Okay. Function means what? Like in C we design the functions. Okay. Okay. Function takes input in the form of parameter and generates some code. Okay, and gives some output. Jacobson method, also called OOSE, that is object oriented software engineering. So, traditional method treats function and data as separate. Okay. Such approach often leads the problem during maintenance. If the software is going to change, so there may be problem. So, object oriented software engineering do not separate, it does not separate function and data, but view them as an integrated whole, means as an object. Okay. Code and Yodan method, all are I mean there is little difference between the functionality. So, in this code and Yodan method, the idea in this method is to extend the model with respect to processes. Okay, we can extend as the process, human interfaces and database management system issues. If we have issues in DBMS or type of database which we are going to use, so we can extend this model. Okay. The method consists of following 5 steps: finding classes and object like earlier. So, what are this? So, specify how classes and object should be found. Then we have to identify the structure. Structure means, structure is what? The whole data type. Okay. Similar, non-similar, even the function we can include. So, even generalization-specification means superclass, subclass. Okay. Generalization-specification structure, like suppose for example an object is a person. Okay. So, person, if we specify person, this could be like a customer. Okay. like this could be student, like this could be somewhere else. Similarly, student could be like graduate student, illiterate and all that. Okay. So this view from top to bottom is specialization. Okay. So generalization, specifications, the whole party structure, whole and part, like this is the whole, okay, and this is the part we can say. So this also use. Okay. Next, identifying subject. It is done by partitioning the class and object model into, it is done by partitioning the class and object model into larger units. Subject is group of classes and object. Okay. Defining attributes. What are the attributes? What are the features? I mean, like if we have object person, so what could be the attribute? What could be the attribute? So like person name, okay, customer ID and like that. Okay. So it is done by identifying information and the association. Association means relationship. Okay. What are the relationships between objects? How an object associated with another object. Okay. So defining attribute is done by identifying information and the associations that should be associated with each and every instance. Okay. The identify attributes are placed in correct level of inheritance hierarchy. Then defining services. So these are the 5 steps in the method. It means defining the operations of the classes. Then Westbrook method. The Westbrook method do not make clear distinction between analysis and design tasks. In this method, analysis and design both are together. Okay, there is no clear distinction. So rather a continuous process that begin with the assessment of a customer specification and end with design is proposed. So analysis and design is not treated as a separate in this method. Okay. What are the generic steps of object-oriented analysis? So these steps are mentioned. First, elicit customer requirements for the system. Identify scenario or we can say use cases. Select classes and object using basic requirements. Okay. On the basis of basic requirement, we can select, identify the class and object. And once we identify the class and object, then we can identify attributes and operation, means methods for each system object. Okay. So these all are the basic or you can say generic step for any object oriented analysis. Further, we can define structure and hierarchy that organize classes, build an object relationship model, build an object behavior model. Okay. We can model even of object relationship, object behavior model, review the object oriented analysis model, again use case or scenario. Okay. So we can review the object oriented analysis by using use cases or scenario. So these all are the basic or you can say general step of object oriented analysis. What? First, customer requirement, identify scenario or you can say use cases, then select classes and object using basic requirements, identify attribute and operation for each system object, define structure and hierarchy that organize classes, build an object relationship model, build an object behavior model and review the object oriented analysis model against use case or scenario. So this is the these all are the general or generic steps. Okay. The unified approach to OOA is what? UML. All the models or all the methods which is used, which was used for object oriented analysis are unified to get UML, that is unified modeling language, which we use these days. Okay. So Grady Both, James Romberg and Eva Jacobson collaborated to combine the best feature of their individual object oriented analysis, okay, and design method into a unified method, and that unified method becomes the UML, unified modeling language. So UML is what? UML is nothing but just to model system. How we model? So, how we can model a system? For that there must be some notations, what are the representation schemes and all this. Okay. There are so many tools which are used to model a problem. When we model, so what are the advantages of modeling? If we model, okay, prior to design our code as actual, that will be quite beneficial in completing so. Okay. So these are some view of system in UML: user model view, structural model view, behavior model view, implementation model view, environmental model view. Okay. So what are the user model view? This will represent the system product from the users called actors. Okay. Structural model means structure. Okay. That is data and functionality are viewed from inside of the system. That is static structure. That is what are the classes, what are the object, what are the relationship between objects and all that. This come under the structural model. Okay. Behavioral model means this part of the analysis model represent the dynamic or behavioral aspects. Dynamic means even changing time to time. Implementation model view: the structural and behavior aspects of the system are represented as they are built. Okay. Environmental model view is what? Structural and behavior aspect of the environment in which the system is to be implemented are represented in environmental model view. Okay. What are domain analysis? So domain means like problem domain. So the objective of domain analysis is to define a set of classes, means objects that are encountered throughout an application domain. These can be reused in many applications. Okay. This is the process of domain analysis. What are the method? What are the process? Okay. So software domain analysis is the identification, analysis and specification of common requirement. Okay. So again, for object-oriented analysis model, these are the component. Okay. Static view, semantic view, static view of attributes and all this. Okay. Process we have already, how to gather basic customer requirement, the analysis and all. Okay. So in in this lecture, what we have studied, analysis, object-oriented analysis. The object-oriented analysis is basically investigation of the problem, and it involves mainly three phases. One is object-oriented analysis, second is object-oriented design, and third is object-oriented programming, means implementations. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Jai Hind.